Welcome to the Shipping Podcast, where I meet interesting maritime professionals sharing their passion for the shipping industry and their everyday job. I am your host. My name is Lena Gothberg. Hello and welcome to the 87th episode of the Shipping Podcast. I'm back, and finally I've found someone to discuss new media development with. I will be introducing you to Harald Huso, who has more than 20 years' experience in Norwegian media, advertising and new media development. And he has some exciting ideas, who I share, and some that I don't share, about the maritime industry and how we market ourselves. Welcome to the Shipping Podcast. Could you please introduce yourself?
My name is Harald Huso. I have a background in media, but started up in the shipping industry just after high school because my father was a shipbroker and I was supposed to follow his footsteps. So I went to Germany, to Bremen, for 1.5 years to learn the trade and didn't feel that I quite fit in. So when I got back, I was in the military, and after that I ended up in the radio. And stayed in radio for approximately 10 years, developing concepts, programs, and things like that. And then in the middle of approximately 1995, I started looking into the internet. Radio and internet is quite similar in the way that it's a direct way to publish that. You, like your podcast, you record it and you publish it. Like television, you have to script much more, you have to plan it much more, and you have to edit it, and very often things take a lot more time before you get it published. So I started working radio, internet in the middle of 1995, and even made my first web page like in 1994 before HTML was released. So it was quite early on the internet things. And after that, I started up a media production company. After a while, just focusing on the maritime industry and on the digital projects. And then I had a project for a big newspaper here in Oslo with streaming and podcasts and things like that. And thinking, could I do something like this for the maritime industry? And started up an online TV channel for shipping, which I decided to do in 2008 when we got the 2008 financial crisis. It didn't work out that well. And today I'm running a company which had a vision and goal to build the media tunnels for the future. I'm curious and work with different suppliers in smart technology. One partner in Horten named 7 Sense, who make all kinds of sensors for all kinds of things for farmers and the energy sector and for the maritime sector, where we together developed a solution to measure the brake load in mooring. It was a client who worked with oil tankers and needed to know when the stretch was too high, not for themselves, more to document it for the Norwegian government. A mooring IoT solution is not really a media product, so I know that I will need the input from different kind of hardware. If it's a mooring solution or it's a drone for something, then I will need the output that it will give. And I'm a person that is always full of ideas, so I'm positive about being part of innovation projects. So I'm working on a project which is called Smart Radio, which is kind of the essence of what I do, where a radio today is like a box in your living room, or is a radio in the car. I think in the future that the radio is anything that you wear on you. It could be your smartphone, it could be a watch, or it could even be your glasses.
Isn't it already?
It is in some way. But today, not a podcast, but an internet radio is a radio that you stream through your mobile phone to your speakers in the car or at home. What I'm trying to develop is a radio that create a listening experience based on your preferences, so that it put together bits and pieces of news, programs from other radio stations, podcasts, and other content which is relevant for me and where I am and where I'm heading. So a radio in the future don't have to be local or national or global. I can have everything, because using the phone or a watch, it can position where I am, so I can get much more accurate information about the traffic when I'm out driving. Like today, when I'm driving from, let's say, Horten, I suddenly get a message that it's car trouble in Larvik, which is like 10 miles south of me, and I'm heading to Oslo. I would like to have the information about what is happening in front of me. Or that I could get information about when they are going to pick up paper in my neighborhood. Or that I can get offers along the way when I'm traveling, which is targeted to where I am and who I'm with. So that you get a more personal experience listening to radio. Today, radio is very much just music without the depths of content that you had before. And there I think that a podcast, for example, will make that possible, that you put the podcast, if I'm interested in shipping, I get a shipping podcast into my listening experience. And then I will learn more about that.
Are you focusing on the maritime industry, or is it radio in general that you want to work with?
This idea is more encapsulating how I work. So I'm thinking the same way I'm working towards 3 industries, or actually 4, but the 4th industry is the consumer market. And then I work towards the maritime industry, the medical health care industry, and agriculture. And then as I said, I think that the future of media will be based on smart technology, IoT, machine learning, big data, etc. So I'm looking into it, working on it, and trying to figure out how the future is going to work. And when it comes to the maritime industry, it's the same way of thinking, gathering news, information, IoT data, to make it easier for people to see the data that they need. And in that department, I developed a concept that I call smart digital helpers. Why I call it helpers and not smart technology is to be more focused on the problems or the pains in hand, and not the technology. That talk with a ship broker, a ship owner, or a technical person, and to try to figure out what is your pain, your problem, and how can we solve that when it comes to information.
Okay. Do you have any support? I mean, you probably need some capital to get these ideas flying.
I don't have any capital, but I have good partners. I'm working alone.
That's also very important.
And the reason for having partners is that I also need people to play ball with, to discuss things with. So I have a partner in Hamar named Making View, making solutions for VR and AR. And then I have a partner in Horten named 7 Sense, who make all kinds of sensor technologies. And I work with Computas, which is a Norwegian company with a headquarter at Lysaker, who had teamed up with Google and Google Cloud Solutions. So then if I need solutions that is heavier, bigger in machine learning, big data, then I turn to them and then we try to figure out how do we solve these things. And it also give me more, what I call it, I get wings to fly, so that even if I'm just me, I'm like 188 tall, so quite big, but not big in the way of being a company. It gives me wings to be able to talk with bigger companies, to talk with the government. And that's also important when it comes to the other reason to work in 4 segments is that if I do something really smart, like the smart radio for the consumer market, it's easier to convince a conservative industry like the maritime industry that this is a good idea for you as well. Maybe not a radio, but the same kind of thinking.
How do you see the future for shipping in general?
I think that that smart technology is going to do a lot for the industry. And it's going to happen a lot of things within the technology that we use when it comes to fuel, for example. It's already happening a lot of things. I think that in the future we will get new materials, new energy, and smarter digital technology. I think that the ships of tomorrow will look a little bit like the ships of yesterday, but with smarter technology.
So how can shipping become more visible to the general public?
Stories. I mean, they are transporting all kinds of things, and they have to get all those stories out, that they transport funny things, change things, and get them out to the public. To take the good stories and bring them out.
Where should we tell the stories, and how should we tell them? You are in the media industries.
If you have good stories, then first go to the normal sources like radio and television, and have people in your company from outside industries, people from the media in position that know how these things works. And another thing that is possible is to make your own stories. I mean, with the internet, you could make good stories on your website, or make special websites for your company's products, or to tell those stories. Every time you do something special, interesting, crazy, then make a website for it, or a podcast, or a video, and document it, and tell a story. Be a good storyteller, and focus on the funny, the good, the positive things. If the newspapers or television can write something bad about the old ship owners, then they do that. They don't focus on the good stories. So you have to use a bigger metaphor and tell more of the really good stories. And then I think that if you do that over time, and I feel that to get more good stories out, I mean, I think that the situation has changed, that you have much more positivity towards the maritime industry than just 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's the entire media landscape has changed. And when you speak to journalists, they say, well, we never write about a house that is not on fire. So why should we write about a ship or a shipping company? That is why we write when something happens, and that's usually something bad.
Again, back to that positivity thing about focusing on the good things, that Norwegian ship owners, who's like the icons of the industry, not just the Norwegian ship owners, but ship owners in general, is like in the middle of the hub. It's the people that is running the industry. And you have people like that in all the other industries. You have Stephen Jobs in, We had Steve Jobs. And you have people like Branson. You had people like Disney and Ford, who was and is specialists on getting the story out, to use themselves as role models.
So we lack our superheroes.
The ship owners that managed to make themselves these superheroes, and managed to stand out to be that person that is innovative, who is strong, who is different. I think those people will at least get attention from the community. And if you are good at building that role model, good at building that image, then I think that will do good for the industry. And you can't have 50 super people. Maybe you could have one or two. So the one or two that managed to do that today, to create that image of being that special ship owner guy, I think.
But I also think that we need to show that there are so many different jobs in the maritime industry that is interesting to attract the next generation, which means that we also need to get the superheroes of the shipbroking, or the superheroes of the shippers, or the cargo owners that is buying the transport.
And the technical ship superheroes.
Yeah.
The superheroes in the machine rooms.
Yeah, because there are so many. We just need to tell their story.
You have to get the stories out, and and with new technology, and that's something that has changed everything. If you go back 20 or 30 years, then getting your story out to the media was quite different. If you look at the American president, he is his own media person running his show through Twitter. You can just guess if he's doing it a good way or a bad way, but he's doing it, and he's setting the terms in a way that no other president have done before. And as a ship owner, ship broker, agent, you can do the same. You can set your own terms. You can do things your way, as you wish and want, when you want to do it, if you learn to know the mechanisms. In 2000,
Why do you think they don't do that?
Conservatism. Especially in Norway, I think or in Sweden, you have this to exist, not to be seen, to be like that.
But don't you think that the digital transformation will also mean that we will become more transparent, either we want it or not?
We will. We already are. I mean, if I Google myself, I find a lot of information I don't like or want to be there, or I would like to want it to be a little bit different, but I can't change that because the information about my company, my turnover is out there. It's from all kinds of sources that I can't control. And everything is also more global. So there's not much you can do anymore. But
that is their argument for not being there.
Yeah, that's an argument for not being there, but it's out there. You can't kind of escape it. And for some companies, like in 2007, Facebook started slowly to emerge in Norway, and it was a cute little thing back then. And then you had all the big newspapers and all the new big television stations, and in general a lot of big-sized media companies in Norway, in Europe, and globally. And a lot of them are struggling a lot just now. And many of them, for a long time, decided to stay out of it. And I think that could happen to other industries as well, that staying out of it could hurt you. So it's better to know how to play the game, know how the technology works, know how things is rolling. And then also try to maybe, if possible, try to change things from the inside.
So who would you be interested in listening to in the shipping podcast? Who do you think I should meet the next?
It's always interesting to hear about, like Thomas Wilhelmsen or Suman Pao, how to say. The next generation, young ship owners. The parents lived in another world, in another environment than they do. So those two, I think, is interesting people to listen to.
I agree with you. I will try and find a way to sit down with them and have a chat. Thank you very much for your time, and good luck with the future.
Thank you, and good luck with your future as well. And looking forward to see the development of the shipping podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Harald. You bring up so many thoughts in my head. I am so frustrated with the maritime industry and how we use social media, or we don't use social media, to market and brand ourselves as an industry. And, of course, as individual companies as well. I've done 87 episodes now. If you go back and listen to episode number 2 with Jonathan Wishman, 3 years ago, he told us what he did the years before that when it came to Maersk and their social media. There are lots of things to learn still. But doing this for almost 3 years now, I also get very frustrated that nothing happens when it comes to the maritime media and how we develop that part of our industry. I read a lot about media in other industries, how they work and how they develop and how they see the future. And this industry stand still. I got so many views on advertising, business models, why no one is interested in us, why the maritime media hardly write for anyone outside our industry, why we don't take that rather and do it ourselves, and so on. But I have decided to make a special when I come to 100 episodes. I need to celebrate my 100 episodes, and I'm going to tell what I learned. So I will keep that until that episode. This interview completes the ones that I did when I was in Oslo in October. So from now on, you will only hear interviews made during 2018. I got a few still in pipeline, and the next one I made when I went to Greece. So from me to you, until the next time, over and out. Thank you for listening to the Shipping Podcast. Don't forget to tell everyone that you meet that there is a shipping podcast available and that they should download it and listen to the maritime professionals who are sharing their passion for the shipping industry.